Dragon Age was once a series known for its dark and gritty fantasy tone, but with the release of Veilguard, those elements of the franchise have faded out of existence like that Nilesy Niles meme. In this video, we're going to explore the sanitization of Dragon Age from a dark fantasy series to a corpo-safe version of whimsical fantasy we see in the Veilguard. Specifically, we're going to look at the whitewashing of the Antivan Crows, slavery in Tevinter, and the distinct lack of any evil or morally gray decisions that the player can make. So buckle up, grab some iced coffee, and let's dive into the video. Let's start off by taking a look at the Antivan Crows, the lovable faction of Italian-sounding assassins who are all about family.
I don't have friends. I got family.
You know, suddenly Amazon's hiring of the Fast and Furious lead writer to work on the Mass Effect TV show is starting to make a lot more sense now. But anyhow, what was I saying? Oh yeah, the Antivan Crows play a major role in Dragon Age the Veilguard's main story, but their depiction in the game is much different from what we saw in Dragon Age Origins and DA2. We first learned of the Antivan Crows via our companion Zevran in Dragon Age Origins. In our first encounter with him, he actually tries to assassinate our character at the behest of Terran Loghain, but after defeating Zevran, we can recruit him into our party if we so choose. I've always been interested in games inspired by real-world history. One of the first PC games I ever played on Steam was Rome Total War, and lately I've been itching to find a new game that piques my interest in history, which is where today's sponsor comes into play. World of Warships is a free-to-play game where you can participate in epic naval battles against other players. With over 600 authentically crafted and historically inspired warships to choose from, you have all the opportunity to dominate the high seas, team up with friends or other players, and engage in epic naval battles. Choose from 5 different ship classes, including destroyers, cruisers, battleships, aircraft carriers, and the recently added submarines. World of Warships is available for free on PC and consoles. Click on my link in the description to start playing World of Warships for free today. And right now, first-time players can get a special welcome pack worth €25. So be sure to take advantage of this offer by clicking on my link in the description and downloading World of Warships right now. But the Crows don't take Zevran's failure lightly. It's not like you can just put in your 2 weeks notice and move on to another opportunity, because just like the Mafia, the only way out of the Antivan Crows is in a box. Failure is not an option with the Antivan Crows, and Zevran's decision to team up with the hero of Ferelden makes him a target for the Crows' assassins, to the point where they are still trying to kill him in Dragon Age 2 should he survive the events of Origins. But perhaps the most distasteful aspect of the Crows' HR manual is their practice of recruiting child soldiers and training them to be assassins who never had a real choice at a free life. Zevran is the perfect example of the Crows' methods. Orphaned at birth, and growing up raised in a brothel, Zevran was purchased by an Antivan Crow guildmaster who paid off his late mother's debts in exchange for bringing the 7-year-old elf boy on as a recruit.
Now that you mention it, I am not entirely certain. I was but a boy of 7 when I was purchased, for 3 sovereigns, I'm told, which is a good price, considering I was all ribs and bone and didn't know the pommel of a dagger from the pointy end. The Crows buy all their assassins that way. Buy them young, raise them to know nothing else but murder, and if you do poorly in your training, you die. Oh, I don't know about that. The Crows who are actually good enough to survive come to enjoy some of the benefits. In Antiva, being a Crow gets you respect. It gets you wealth, gets you women, and men, or whatever it is you might fancy. But that does not mean doing what is expected of you always. And it means being expendable. It's a cage, if a gilded cage. Pretty, but confining.
Zevran never got to choose his own path in life, but rather was forced to kill to survive, with no way out of the life of the Crows until his gamble to join the hero of Ferelden. Before the latest entry in the Dragon Age series, the Crows were essentially a villainous faction. They recruited and trained children to become contract killers, selling themselves to do the bidding of wealthy and powerful people such as Terran Loghain. But in Dragon Age the Veilguard, the Crows are depicted as a one big happy family of freedom fighters striving to free Treviso from an oppressive colonizing force in the form of the Antam. their brutal recruitment methods and other unsavory elements are totally glossed over by the game's narrative, because God forbid the player ally themselves or even join a morally gray or bad guy faction. This depiction flies in the face of everything we previously knew about the Antivan Crows, and is done seemingly just to make sure all of our allies in the Veilguard are morally righteous. Let's take a look at all the other factions as well. The Lords of Fortune are culturally sensitive pirates who would never steal precious artifacts from oppressed peoples, even bringing on consultants to make sure all their ill-gotten gains are free from cultural appropriation, even though their leader, Isabella, literally stole the most important religious manuscript from the Kunari in Dragon Age 2, a theft which led to the Kunari besieging the town of Kirkwall and decapitating the leader of the city. The Veil Jumpers are just elves who study magic. The Grey Wardens are, of course, committed to stopping the Blight. The Shadow Dragons are trying to abolish slavery in Tevinter. The Mournwatch are friendly necromancers. And if your Rook was in the Mournwatch, he actually led a rebellion against corrupt nobility in Navarra. And of course, the Antivan Crows are now a family-friendly group of freedom fighters. There's no moral ambiguity in this game within the Veilguard or any of their allies. Gone are the days of allying with questionable characters like Zevran, Terran Loghain, Anders, Merrill, or Solus. Moving on, let's talk about the treatment of slavery, or lack thereof, in Tevinter. Prior to Dragon Age the Veilguard, Tevinter was painted as a strictly hierarchical society run by mages and built on slavery. Unlike Ferelden and Orlais, slavery is a legal and thriving business in Tevinter.
Anyone who talks about the Imperium mentions slavery. It's the center of the slave trade.
Ah, that is true.
And? Did you have slaves?
Not personally, but my family does and treats them well. Honestly, I never thought much about it until I came south. Back home, it's how it is. Slaves are everywhere. You don't question it. I'm not even certain many slaves do.
One major plot point in Dragon Age Origins was Loghain's under-the-table deal with Tevinter slavers, selling off a portion of the elves in Denorum's alienage to help fund his political war chest. And our companion Fenris in Dragon Age 2 was a runaway slave, the lyrium tattoos on his body still showing the signs of his torturous past. Fenris's overt hatred of mages is tied directly to his time being owned by a Tevinter magister, and he inevitably comes face to face with his former master during his companion quest. Yet, when we walk the streets of the Tevinter capital Minrathous in Dragon Age the Veilguard, we see absolutely no indication of a society built on the backs of slaves. There are no slave markets, we don't see slaves tending to wealthy magisters, or anything like that. If you never played a Dragon Age game before, you wouldn't even know that slavery was a defining characteristic of Tevinter society. Because again, slavery is a distasteful subject, so it's better to just not show it at all and keep your game corpo approved. The only time I can remember seeing a slave in the Veilguard is during Emmeric's recruitment quest, where we stumble upon a single injured slave who was going to be sacrificed by the Venatori.
Hello. Did the Venatori bring you here?
They said I'd spilled the wine too many times. That I'd be a better sacrifice than slave.
You are in Navarra, sir. There are no slaves on our soil. Please remain here. After we've seen to the rest of the Venatori, I'll send for someone to escort you above.
All right.
But he's just a dude. He's got no shackles or lyrium tattoos like we saw with Fenris in Dragon Age 2. You wouldn't even know this guy was a slave if Emmerich didn't say anything. The Shadow Dragons faction in Minrathous are apparently fighting to free slaves in Tevinter, but where are all these slaves? I don't see them anywhere. This sanitization also applies to player choices as well. Any evil or morally gray decisions that the player could make in previous Dragon Age games has been completely removed from the Veilguard. In Dragon Age Inquisition, you could punch Solus and Dorian in the face during a heated argument. In Dragon Age Origins, you can make decisions that would cause your companions to try and kill you. And in Dragon Age 2, you could sell Fenris to his former master, or let the Kunari take Isabella as a prisoner. In Dragon Age the Veilguard, you cannot even be remotely disagreeable to any of your party members. Your only options in dialogue and quest decisions is to fully support them in everything they do. Also, for the first time in the series, every single companion must be recruited and kept in your party for the whole game. Dragon Age Origins, DA2, and Inquisition all had optional companions that you could either skip out on recruiting entirely or remove them from your party either through a story choice or by pulling them aside in dialogue and telling them to hit the road.
Sarah, I don't think you're fitting in the way we need.
Not fitting? Are you daft? You're fighting holes in the sky and you're getting rid of people. No, not people. Just me. I get it.
No easy way to say it. You should just leave.
That's so. Well, it's easy to say you should lump it. You can't kick me out. I quit. In fact, I was never here. A Jenny in the Inquisition. She's with the people. Always was. Piss up a rope.
Veilguard's mission structure is based on Mass Effect 2, but without the same level of player choice we saw in one of BioWare's greatest games. If you wanted to ride through the Omega-4 relay half-cocked with only 5 of the 12 squad mates recruited, you could do that. Even Tally was technically an optional companion in that game. But every companion in the Veilguard must remain in your party for the entire game, and no decision you can make can cause them to permanently leave, because all of your choices are inoffensive anyway, by design. All the rough edges of this series have been completely sanded off to create a corporate, safe, mass-market product that is Dragon Age the Veilguard. And what remains is an unrecognizable husk of the franchise I once loved. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe to Big Dan Gaming for more Dragon Age and RPG videos. And don't forget to check out World of Warships by clicking on my link in the description. New players can get a special welcome pack worth 25 euros. Big shout out to World of Warships for sponsoring this video, and as always, big shout out to all the channel members for supporting my content. Until next time, this has been Big Dan. I should go.